Welcome to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz taking a look at the upcoming fantasy baseball drafts and draft season officially here. March is here, George. We wrap up the month of February. Now a couple of weeks of spring training games. Players now leaving their spring training sites and headed toward the World Baseball Classic. And so next week the WBC begins as well. But it's great to be back with you as we take a look at the week that was and look ahead to the next few weeks.
Absolutely, right? You imagine about a week of spring training games now, so it's getting a little dull here. But I think WBC next week. Of course, you had the controversy this week about Scuba's only going to make one start against Great Britain. Skiing's only two starts. Not sure what the point is of you guys even going then to a WBC, but still looking forward to some competitive baseball next week.
I definitely can't wait to see the World Baseball Classic, and it all gets started, as you said, next week, early in the week in Tokyo, and then all across the world. We'll go all the way through in the middle of March. Let's get to our top stories here on Fantasy Sports Today. We start off with the young superstar on the Pittsburgh Pirates, turning heads, Connor Griffin. You talk about a rise in average draft position. Boy, I mean, this is the guy this year that's doing that. He's been fantastic thus far. Max Scherzer signs a one-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays, so he will pitch for them, and not sure that he'll be ready to start the season. Got a late start, but Blue Jays aren't concerned. They just need him for the end of the year. Giancarlo Stanton, not really a draftable commodity right now, made some interesting comments to the media about his elbow still hurting. And it does look like Tarek Skubal going to make one start for the World Baseball Classic. Paul Skeens maybe a little bit more than that, but as of right now, the Team USA's big advantage, having those two guys in the semifinal and final, I'm not sure that is an advantage anymore. All right, George, you and I have been playing this fantasy game for a long time here, and we're back to another great prospect that's having a great spring. The one that stands out to me through the years was Trevor Story when he just caught fire in spring training, got drafted so high. Was a really good player, by the way, in fantasy, too. Those spring numbers did mean something. But thus far, Connor Griffin with Pittsburgh looks like he's going to be their opening day first baseman. They're going to give him a shot maybe to get a contract extension signed before the season begins. Remember, you do get a draft pick if your player wins Rookie of the Year, so the Pirates have some incentives there to do that, but he is the talk of the first 2 weeks without a doubt.
Absolutely, right? And he said he'd be open to that contract extension, by the way, so we'll see if the Pittsburgh and then can work something out. Apparently, Pittsburgh thinks they might be able to compete this year. That should help as well. That pitching staff makes me think that it's possible for a wild card there, so we'll see what they can do there. Craig, I was in a mock draft with our ex-co-worker here, Frank Stanfield on CBS on Wednesday, and one of the things I was checking out is where would Griffin go? How long could I wait to take him? He still went in about round 14, round 15 of that draft, and I was a little surprised. I thought he would go earlier. We're February. That was February 25th. I think by 2 weeks, mid-March, he's going around round 10, round 12. I think he's going to keep climbing the rankings here because I think he is going to start with that team. If they ever announce that, by the way, I think he's going to fly up the rankings to maybe by the 8th round there. And we can't also forget the St. Louis star shortstop as well. He had a home run today, by the way. Well, yep. Devin Williams, I think he's going to go up rankings as well, especially if he can break camp with the team. That's the game we're playing here. If you're drafting now or drafting within the next 10 to 14 days, will these guys break camp? If we know they're going to break camp, they're going to fly up draft boards. The only reason they're being held so far back now is because we're not sure.
Yeah, whether J.J. Weatherholt hit a home run in spring training, and I believe he'll play second base, if I'm not mistaken, because Mason Wynn, really good Gold Glove shortstop with the Cardinals. All right, so let's get to Max Scherzer. He re-signs with the Blue Jays. His young daughter sends a letter in and asks them to re-sign him, and they get it done. So he's added to this strong rotation of Kevin Gausman, Dylan Cease, who they signed in the offseason, Trey Savage, who we haven't seen yet in the spring. They're starting him up slow. Jose Barrios, Cody Ponce, and eventually Shane Bieber too. And I say eventually because that's the kind of thing that the Blue Jays are looking for, George. I think they're really, look, they can't consider themselves the favorites for the pennant or even to win the division, but I think they're going to slow play this season with their starting pitching, get Bieber back when he's good, get Scherzer going when he's good, you Savage, get him going in the summer, because their offense is good enough, I think, to carry them.
Yeah, I think it's the old saying here, you can never have enough starting pitching, right? And you're seeing there in the graphic, Gausman, Caesar, Savage, Scherzer, Berrios, Ponce, Lowry, they have lots of starting pitching there. So they should be covered in that way. Now, when everyone's healthy, it'll be interesting who's going to the bullpen. All right, so we'll see how they're going to work that out. I think you could have some question marks about the offense, by the way. Outside of Vlad Guerrero, there's a lot of, okay, what do we have here? I mean, all right, Ernie Clement, okay, had the nice World Series. Yakamoto, the Japanese import. Addison Barger, can he take that next step here? They lost Santander, right? You lost Bichette. I mean, they have some question marks on offense there. That being said, I think if they're not the favorite in the American League, I would probably have Seattle, Craig, as being that favorite. I really like what Seattle has done. They're top three, right? They're going to be a really good team here. So we'll see. I'm not all that worried about Toronto, and I like the move. And yes, the letter from his daughter was very cute.
That was nice.
I don't know if that had any bearing on it, but it was very cute.
Meanwhile, Giancarlo Stanton, in terms of fantasy, I mean, look, he's a guy that's always risky every season. You just don't know how many games you're going to get out of him. But I think that he kind of laid it on the line with some interesting comments, George, that he made this past week, made a comment that's going to live forever on the internet here. I can't open a bottle. I can't open a bag of chips. That doesn't sound very good. I'm wondering if Stanton could walk that one back if he would do it. I don't know. But either way, Yankees signed Paul Goldschmidt. My guess is when Stanton can't DH, they throw Goldie in there. That was probably behind it, wasn't it?
I don't think the goalie Stanton thing was quite for that reason. I think the Yankees want some right-handed hitting. Is really what they want because they're a heavy left-handed team now. The Stanton thing, by the way, according to the Yankee beat writers, nothing's changed from last year. All right, now if you want to believe them, that's great. And Stanton's fine; he'll be okay. But it's a weird comment, as you mentioned there. You can't open a bag of chips. You can't open a bottle of water, but you can hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Weird, to put it nicely there. But listen. What were you banking on from Stanton anyway? 110 games? That would be about the over/under, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Yankees admit they're going to have to give him a lot of days off, which they were doing anyway. He was never going to play 7 days a week. He's probably in the 4 to 5 range at best when the Yankees have a 7-day week. If they have a 6-day week, it's probably a 4-game week for him. So that's the way they're going to do it. He's going to play 2 of every 3 days at best is what they'll go on Stanton. Other than that, he's not going to. He's never going to be an everyday player. If you're drafting him late because you need some power, right? If you're drafting him as a starting player, I don't know what to tell you. I guess the good news is for you, in a lot of leagues, he does qualify at outfield, so he's not stuck in your utility. So if you're playing 5 outfielders, I could sort of see it. In a daily league, I'm fine with it.
Meanwhile, the World Baseball Classic getting ready to start. We found out that Tarek Skubal going to make one start, going to start against Great Britain. We also found out that Paul Skeens and Logan Webb will each make 2 starts. This is still great to have them in it. Let's not get it twisted here, George. But it doesn't sound like Skeens or Skubal will pitch in a championship game. So I wonder what would happen if Team USA gets to the final, and they probably will.
Oh, I'll twist it. This is awful. What is the point of Tarek Skubal showing up to pitch 3 innings against Great Britain? You or I could throw 3 innings against Great Britain and they'll win the game. What is the point there? Why is he even going? And then he's going to leave? Well, what do you want that? The jersey? You want the hat? I don't understand this, Craig. I don't get this at all. Skeen's going to make 1 extra start. What is the point here? Now, I'm the first person to tell you it's WBC. All right. Starting pitching is not all that's cracked up to be. They're only going to go 3 innings anyway. Maybe 5 by the time the finals come along. They're going to be very careful with these guys. Any of these guys get hurt, forget about it. Teams will never send another player to the WBC for the rest of their lives. So I get that. And if I'm Skubal, if he would have said, Craig, hey, I got a big contract coming up here. I don't want to alter my routine here, so I'm not going to go play at all. I'd have been fine with that. But to show up for 1 game against Great Britain for 3 innings, sorry, especially if the United States wins the gold medal in men's hockey and women's hockey, you think there would have been even more built up for this. So I was disappointed. That's the word I would use. I used it with Kevin Walsh the other day on Game Time. Very disappointed in this decision by Tarek Skubal. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, a little strange. That's but we just found out now. I think that's the strangest thing of all. Is why we found out a week before it starts as opposed to like 3 months ago. Anyway, we'll be right back with more fantasy sports today, previewing shortstops. Don't go away.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number one in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it. Yeah. Don't you think so?
The Craig Carden Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still a James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
The premier position in fantasy baseball, shortstops. George and I take a deep dive into the position on this edition of Fantasy Sports Today. We start off with the top few at the top and two in the top 10, George. We're going to have Bobby Witt Jr. and Ellie De La Cruz virtually drafted in the top 10 average draft position in every single fantasy league this year. Witt, because he's a superstar. De La Cruz, because he's going to steal a lot of bases, probably lead the league. Then you have Gunnar Henderson, Francisco Lindor, Trey Turner. Zach Neto makes his first appearance inside the top 10. And then Mookie Betts gets that shortstop qualification, plays all over the diamond. And Betts actually going later in most drafts than he ever has before. So what do you make, George, of these, what we would call elite shortstops?
I mean, Bobby Witt's probably a top 5 pick, right? He's Ohtani, Judge, Soto, and then I think Witt goes anytime after that. All right, so he's a great player. They brought the fences in Kansas City as well. We keep talking about that. That's going to help us. It can't hurt his numbers. That should help his numbers as well here. So I'm not worried about Witt. I think that what we get interesting is, once again, did that mock draft on Wednesday, is Lindor is falling. And we know why Lindor is falling. Same thing with Corbin Carroll. Holiday to a lesser degree here, but it's because people are worried about the helmet bone. All right, as you and I have discussed several times, I think he might play opening day. Yeah, they're probably pushing it a little bit, but that's not my issue. It's going to be, when does the strength come back in the hand, wrist? And that could be a month, 2 months, half a season. We don't know. You're taking away his home runs. Well, he's no longer a first round pick. Lindor went in round 3, by the way. I took Carroll. I took him about halfway through round 2. Took a chance. Then it's a mock, so I'm allowed to take that chance there. If it was a real draft, Craig, I don't think I would have done it, because I had the 8th overall pick, so I did take Tariq Skubal. I think it's really at the top 6 picks you can think about a pitcher, and I didn't feel great about. I don't usually take a pitcher in round 1, so I didn't want to take Carroll in round 2, but he was staring there at me. I'm like, I'm going to take a chance, see what happens here. So I think Lindor is going to be very interesting to see what you're going to do with him. Mookie Betts, you just mentioned, didn't look good last year. I know I had him on a bunch of teams, and he was hurting. So I think he's going to keep dropping here. Not all that thrilled to go up and get him. I think the guy we didn't put on this list is we'll talk about next. It's much more interesting. I might take over a couple of these guys.
Well, Zach Neto, by the way, people are may have forgot the season that he had last year. One of the bright spots for the Angels, stole 26 bases, and really on the verge of superstardom on a team that just seemingly is going nowhere. But either way, Zach Neto, definitely a top 10 shortstop in fantasy this season. Another player who's jumped into the top 75 in terms of ADP, George, for the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, not a player that really was thought of very much at all a couple of years ago, and now has emerged as a young star of the game. Geraldo Perdomo has just taken over that position by storm. He got a contract extension, and he's a star on the Diamondbacks. C.J. Abrams, a little bizarre year for him last year, to say the least, but he's in the top 10. Maikel Garcia qualifies at short, but of course, we know he's not going to play there every day. Bo Bichette qualifies at short too, but we know he's moving to third base. Corey Seager, Jeremy Pena coming off a nice season, and then Trevor Story of the Boston Red Sox. Obviously a significant drop-off, I think, as you kind of go through this, but I still would be very happy with Perdomo on my team. Bo Bichette, I still think could have a big year. And look, the question with Corey Seager isn't if he's going to have a good year, it's just how much is he going to play?
Well, 1,000% agree with you about Corey. I would take Corey on every one of my teams. You could tell me it's 130 games plus. All right, I'll take 130 plus here, but we just don't know. All right, he gets hurt all the time. So we'll see. But I do like him. The player I was talking about was the guy you already played up here. That's Perdomo. Love Perdomo. He'd be in my top, if not top 5, top 6, right there as far as shortstops are concerned here. C.J. Abrams, I think, will rebound here. Yeah, they said it was a weird year last year. We've heard his name mentioned in the trades as well, but Washington wants a ton for him. And I don't blame for that. I don't love Bichette this year. All right, I generally don't like players who are going from one league to the other. All right, plus you throw in the fact that he's leaving artificial turf. He's leaving a bandbox in Toronto, right? It was a very small ballpark. It was small before they brought the fences in. Smaller now, City Field's more of a pitcher's park there. So I have my concerns all over the place with Bichette, especially now moving to third base as well. No, I'll be avoiding him at all costs here. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I'm not taking that chance. And Trevor Story, he had a nice rebound year last year, Greg, where I don't mind getting him around 11, round 12. Not at all. That's about where he's going right now. There are a lot of shortstops going before him. Some people still don't believe it. Listen, that is the risk. I'm not so sure. I'm totally convinced that he's going to do it again either. But he was really good last year.
Do you remember that spring training that he had when he was a rookie? I alluded to that earlier in the show, where I think he hit like 11 spring training home runs, George. And, it was like, I want to say it was a long time ago, probably 8, 9 years ago, maybe 10. And then the question was, can he continue to do it? And he immediately did, right? Opening day, he hit one, and I think he hit like 6 of his first 7 games or something like that too.
Yeah, and playing Colorado too. That word method moved him up all our boards, right? It was eye-opening what he could do there. Yeah, Trevor Story, like I said, I think he's found it again. I'm not saying he's going to be that guy in Colorado, but Fenway's not that far from Colorado as far as a ballpark. So I kind of like what Boston's doing here. I'm going to be I wouldn't want him on multiple teams, like 3, 4 of my teams, but 1 or 2, I'd be good with Trevor Story.
Let's take a look real quick here as we continue on at shortstops, and then after we come back from the break, we'll break these down a little bit more intensely. Willy Adames, right now, he checks in as an ADP of 119. That's down from last year. Same with Jackson Holliday, who's going to miss some time, down from last year as well. Dansby Swanson of the Cubs. Jacob Wilson, what a fantastic rookie season he had last year. Xavier Edwards of Miami, who's going to play second but does qualify at short. Colson Montgomery, young star on the White Sox. I think this is a name to circle for the future, George. And then Bryson Stott, pretty reliable, but just not sexy enough, I guess, for some. You're getting 15, 20 home runs, and that's about it. You're not going to get more. You're not going to get less.
I kind of like Bryson Stott. I do. And I think you put it perfectly. He's not sexy. All right. He's just, you're going to get solid numbers here, but he allows you to draft higher rankings at other positions. So I'm okay with it. I ended up Willy Adames in that draft, but that's because I did grab Connor Griffin the round before. I saw Adames sitting there. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a shot on Griffin. Took him around round 14, round 15, took Adames next. And I have no problem starting Adames. I hope he'll be my middle infielder. Adames has the power. Average could suffer. But we have to remember, slow start last year. Then he tore it up for like 3 or 4 months here. So I hope he figures it out more in April this year. I kind of like that strategy. And like I said, these young shortstops, man, I don't think all 3 will hit, right? Not right away, but I think at least one's going to be a star. Maybe this year's Nick Kurtz.
We'll take a quick break here on Fantasy Sports Today and continue on with our shortstop preview and also some buy or sell. SportsGrid 60. You're watching Fantasy Sports Today, and we'll be back right after this.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to #1 in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it. Yeah. Don't you think so?
The Craig Carden Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still at James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back, Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. We continue to look at the shortstop rankings in fantasy. And as we just previously left you, we were looking at some of the names inside the top 200 in fantasy, although there's a number outside that is probably inside by now. Another one real quick, George, let's get to this one. Xavier Edwards, who stole 27 bases last season, hit 283, played short at the beginning of the season, moved over to second base, was really an elite defender there, and certainly will help Miami a lot, and he'll bat at the top of the lineup. It's just a matter of how many runs he will score in the Marlins lineup. Will the guys protect him behind Edwards? But this is a guy that could easily steal 30 this year.
Yeah, he's going to be a guy you're going to have to look at, especially someone like me who doesn't normally draft for stolen bases. So I got to be very. I would listen. If Edwards would ever fall to me at the middle infield position, I'd be thrilled. Probably not going to happen because other people are going to look for bases as well here. But it's something to keep in mind that we need bags, and he's a guy who can do it. He's probably not going to hurt your average. You may not get the power you want from him, but then again, you can find power is much easier to find than stolen bases. So if you don't know someone like Ellie De La Cruz in round one, it's something you're generally searching for over and over again. There's another guy I like here, and that's not on this list. But being the Yankee fan, Craig, I think Jose Caballero is going to play a lot this year. I do. I don't. Volpe's not playing until at least May, and I'll be the first one to tell you that Brian Cashman never gives up on anybody. So Volpe's going to get his chances. But I think Caballero is going to be a good player for the Yankees. Who's going to play? They're not going to forget about him. I think he's going to get 400 at bats this season, maybe more here. And he gets 400 at bats. He's stealing 40 to 50 bases. Easy. All right, he'll do that for the Yankees. So I'm going to like this guy a whole lot, once again, as a middle infielder.
Yeah, and speaking of Caballero, he is inside the top 225, but really outside standard 12-team league drafts. And the same could be said for Connor Griffin, but this ADP doesn't factor in what happened this week. This guy is rising up, and in fact, he's got to be inside the top 200 in the NFBC, I would guess, based on the drafts after the weekend. Also, we have Ezekiel Tovar of Colorado, Brendan Donovan of Seattle, Xander Bogaerts. Wow, how the mighty have fallen. 242 for Bogaerts. Otto Lopez of Miami at 246. And then Carlos Correa, when healthy, one of the best, but obviously a player, George, that is certainly not on the front nine of his baseball career.
Yeah, right. You got Bogaerts and Correa. That draft was a 12-team draft. We didn't do reserves at 18 rounds. I don't remember their names being mentioned. So if they got drafted, it was very late when I started. Wasn't paying attention as much there. So you mentioned how the mighty have fallen there. Brendan Donovan, I kind of like because he qualifies at multiple positions here. I think most of us like players like that can help us out there. Guys we aren't necessarily relying on, but they can qualify at third, every second. It's nice. It's nice to have that position flexibility here. So he's a guy I will be looking at once again later in my draft. Playing for Seattle now, not exactly a hitter's ballpark there, regardless of what Cal Raleigh can do. So, but a player I will be looking at.
So, anybody else here inside the top 250 at shortstop before we put a bow on the shortstop position? I mean, Griffin is the story of the spring. I know that. Donovan, I think, helped himself with that trade to Seattle a little bit. I mean, St. Louis's offense is not going to be very good, I don't think, this season. And then they opened up that slot for J.J. Weatherholt. But beyond that, I think that most of these players, as you see here, standard 12s, not getting drafted, deeper, who is the guy to take a shot on here? Outside of Griffin, I think we've got that clear on that.
If I was waiting this long here, I mean, I would. As much as I like Caballero, I don't know if I like him off the start for me, but he's going to be a guy I look at a lot because I just know myself. I'm going to have problems with bases. And if I see him staring there, and I do believe he's going to have all those at-bats here, he's going to run. That's what he does. He makes some boneheaded moves, no doubt. He makes them like, what were you thinking? But he's going to steal 40 bags. And I think it's very valuable to me as a middle infield. It's going to be Caballero for me. And of course, every player says this in spring training, but he's as strong as he's ever been. He says, I can hit more home runs as well here. So maybe he won't hurt me in that category either. But it's going to be Caballero for me.
Yeah, I think he could be the biggest factor just for straight steals, but obviously there's more players out there that are more diverse that are going to do a lot more for your fantasy teams. Other names of players, George, who maybe we didn't mention here that are possibilities. Mason Wynn of the Cardinals, who's a glove first guy, but certainly they talk about him putting together a great offensive season. Maybe this is the year. Also, Joey Ortiz of the Milwaukee Brewers. And then another name that I would just like to throw out there, because what we saw in the World Series last year, I don't know about you, but maybe Ernie Clement is a guy to take a shot on, George. He qualifies at short. He qualifies at a number of different positions, and he looked really good in the postseason for Toronto.
He did. I think there's too many Chiefs or too many batters in other positions. So I wonder if someone's going to get left out. I'm going to leave you one other name here that I'm going to tell. In the leagues I played, I'm going to have him in at least one league, McGonigal of Detroit. Going to take a shot at him too, see if he's going to be that guy.
We'll be right back.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number one in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it. Yeah. Don't you think so?
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers record was better, but he's still a James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports today on SportsGrid. We just took care of the shortstop position for your upcoming fantasy baseball drafts. Now, let's take a look at the second base position for the 2026 fantasy baseball draft season. And it all starts with Jazz Chisholm Jr., who says that I think he wants to do 50-50 this season. Jazz never a stranger to throwing things at the wall. Sometimes they stick, and Jazz, sometimes they don't. Sorry to say. Ketel Marte back with the Diamondbacks. A lot of folks didn't think that would happen. Bryce Terang, fantastic player on the Brewers. There's Maikel Garcia again, Nico Horner. Jose Altuve, the ageless wonder, just played his first spring training game this week. And then Jordan Westburg naturally is going to drop a lot because of the injury that he had in spring training. But, you basically have, I think, an elite group here, George, of 3 or 4. And then it's probably time to dive a little bit further down and see what else you can find, because second base is going to be tough once you get past the first 5-6 guys.
Yeah, I think we have to realize, and I think saying 5 or 6 is being nice, by the way. I think your first thing about 3 or 4 is about right. But you have to realize most of your leagues are going to be in the same position, right? They're going to be stuck here. Jazz, I doubt very much he's going 50-50. 40-40 would seem to be a stretch, but he should go 30-30. So he is your number one guy there. Yankees score a lot of runs. He'll do fine. Marte, you already said it. I'm surprised he's back with Arizona as well. After the stunt he pulled last year, he wanted a longer vacation at the All-Star, whatever. But I'm most surprised he's back as well here. And then after that, I like Turang. I don't know if I like those as others do. We were really high on him. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. Same thing with Horner. And then it gets real dicey real quick, mainly because some of the guys we relied on in the past aren't that guy anymore. Albies, he's dropped down to what? He's 13, 14, Semien.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough position, Craig. It's generally one where I just say, screw it. I'm going to wait. And I'll deal with it later.
Yeah, no, it could be. I mean, because you do have some other players that I think later on could give you some value here. As we take a look at 8 through 14, the Twins are going to hand the reins over to Luke Keyshaw. Really not a lot of optimism with the Twins this season, but he is one reason to be optimistic. Ozzy Albies coming off a horrific year. Don't look at his stats. Just kind of pretend you didn't see last year because it just was a disaster. You have Jackson Holiday, who's going to miss some time earlier in the year. Brandon Lau goes from Tampa Bay to Pittsburgh. Cedane Rafaela, another name to watch. Had a really nice first year, George. Xavier Edwards of Miami, of course, as I mentioned, qualifies there. And then Marcus Semien hoping for a bounce back with the Mets. So, look, a lot of coin flipping here, George. A lot of guessing, I think, on these names.
And that's why I'm not afraid to wait, because we're all going to be in the same boat. And trying to guess on one of these guys here. In the mock on Wednesday, I took Albies. I forget what round I got him. It was pretty late because I waited. And I got Semien like the last round, to back him up there and be my middle infielder or reserve, whatever he was. A guy that I like on that list, though, if I could pick anyone I want for the round they're going in, would be Rafaela. All right. You mentioned a nice little year last year, kind of like that Boston offense there. So he's the kind of guy I would look at there. Once again, if I need my bags, we talked about Edwards when we mentioned shortstop. He could be that guy as well. Brandon Lau, love the power he hit last year. But remember, he's playing Steinbrenner Field for his home games there. He's not even in Tampa Bay anymore. He's in Pittsburgh, and that's not a good ballpark for left-handers to hit home runs for that power. So probably going to be staying away from him. I would have preferred he stayed with Tampa, even playing at Tropicana, at least to be on artificial turf.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's lineup could be more formidable, but George is right. Completely different playing in that ballpark last year as opposed to where they're playing this year. Okay, so now we dive into the players that, in case you missed on some of the top, here are some of the tier, what we would call 3 fantasy second basemen, and Bryson headlines those, naturally qualifies at several positions, including middle infield. Jorge Polanco, the Mets say he'll play first base for them this year. Okay, we'll see how that works out. Gleyber Torres of the Tigers. There's Caballero with some qualification. Matt McClain, we can't forget about him. Brendan Donovan of Seattle, and then Otto Lopez of Miami, who gets middle infield qualification, second base, and shortstop.
Hey, I mentioned earlier, we both like Bryson Stott. I wouldn't mind taking him as my middle infield, and no issues there. Gleyber Torres is, once again, a solid option. All right, we know what he's going to do. He does play in Comerica, so the ball's not going to travel very well. We know that. That's the way the ball, it's the way it is here. So, like I said, as you get down the slow, you're grasping. What are you looking for? That's sort of what it comes down to me. Am I looking for average? Am I looking for bases? Do I need some power? and that's the guy I'm going to grab. The guy who solidifies that. Polanco with the Mets is somewhat interesting. The guy can hit, and he played in Seattle, which is another pitcher's ballpark, so maybe Citi Field won't hurt him all that much as far as that's concerned. But my issue is going to be, once again, you're changing leagues, changing positions here, just like Bo Bichette here. Probably not going to have much of Polanco on my on many of my teams, if any, for that matter. Here, I just don't see a big bang up year coming. I think I would rather take a chance on somebody else.
Would agree. Now, the final grouping here includes some really big upside and then also some reliability here, which is kind of funny. So Luis Arias, who is going to play, he's adamant, he's going to play second base this season for the San Francisco Giants. But he just really has not played well there, George, in the past. And the Giants are giving him the keys to that position. Luis Garcia of Washington, Caleb Durbin, we should circle his name. There's a possibility of a breakout, I think, for him with Boston. Same with J.J. Weatherholt. I mentioned Ernie Clement also. I even like Cole Keith on Detroit. Now, Andre Jimenez, I'm not as big a fantasy. I think the guy's a great defender. I think he's a really good player. But if I ended up with him, it became a 14-team league or something went drastically wrong. But I will say this, some nice upside for some of these. And in a league where you draft a lot of guys, if you're still using batting average where you're hitting 210, you throw Arias in your lineup, you know that's going to lift the boats there a little bit.
Oh, 100% correct, right? Arias is a guy you look at, oh, God, everybody I draft is going to, hit below the Mendoza line here. Well, Arias can help you there. That's the only reason I would draft Arias. He doesn't add anything else, no power, no speed, but he puts the bat on the ball here, sort of an old school player there. The guys I'm most interested in are the middle three, all right? Durbin, Weatherholt, and Clement. Durbin, I do wonder, believe it or not, if last year was his breakout year and that's it, that Milwaukee moving on from him so quickly, weird. Just weird in my mind. But once again, playing in Fenway, we'll see what you have there. Yes, I like Weatherholt. I like all the young shortstops are either going to win me leagues, Craig, or they're going to get me in a lot of trouble because I'm going to have these guys between Weatherholt, Griffin, McGonigal. They're going to be on my teams. And if they don't perform, I'm going to be in some trouble here. All right. And Clement is sort of that safe guy. As I said earlier, I do worry, the imports there. And you got Barger, you got Clement. I don't know there's enough at-bats for everybody. So there is a little worry there, but maybe injuries will solve that problem itself out. Clement, as you mentioned earlier, had a hell of a playoffs, right? So
right.
He can play and maybe does deserve that chance to play every day.
Jeff McNeil, rounding these names out, doesn't appear on our list, but McNeil can play the outfield. He could play the infield. Mets said farewell to him. He's playing in a good ballpark this season in Sacramento. Maybe McNeil's numbers get back to what they were a few years ago. And also a very bizarre signing, which goes along the lines of every Colorado Rockies signing, George. But hey, a major league player, Willie Castro, he's going to qualify and play at a lot of different positions. Every year, there generally is a Rocky that overperforms, that will play for you every day in fantasy. I wonder if that is the guy for them this year.
And, once you get late in your draft, you're looking at somebody, taking the Colorado Rockies, not a bad choice, right? You're talking the end of your draft anyway. All right, if you don't like him, doesn't work out for you, we're moving on from him anyway for the hot player in April, all right? So you're fine there. And as you mentioned with Castro, he qualifies at a lot of positions, position flexibility I like. Another player, a couple of guys I'll throw out there, if Brett Beatty for the Mets is going to get everyday playing time somewhere, I don't know where it is, Craig. I don't, but if he were to be the everyday DH, who's going to play left field, whatever they're thinking about here, he'd be somebody I'd be interested in there. I think he can do some damage. Matt McLean, Cincinnati, shortstop, second base, another guy I kind of like in that bandbox.
All right, let's take a quick time out here on Fantasy Sports today. When we come back, it's time to play a little buy or sell. We'll touch on Connor Griffin, C.J. Abrams, and some other players at positions that we've talked about, whether or not we're buying their season or we will sell. So let's do that, and we will dive into it right after this quick timeout. Also, you can download the SportsGrid app for all of our live programming, iOS and Android. It is available and free. We'll be right back with more FST. Don't go away.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number one in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Before we get to this segment, I do want to mention one thing. When we first started off doing fantasy sports today and on this network, like 7, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, that was a long time ago, we used to call this segment Fantasy or Reality. I don't know if, Sam, you were around for that. I'm not sure if you were. And I just want to say for the record here, just because I can, is that I liked Fantasy or Reality. I like buy or sell. There's nothing wrong with that, but I really liked Fantasy or Reality. I don't know why. I just want to bring that up here, but we're going to do this the way we're going to do it here on the show, but I just wanted to just have my piece on that. Okay, now it's time to play a little. I love it. Buy or sell. All right, some bizarre happenings with the World Baseball Classic. I think it's fair to say we're finding out late in the game that some of these pitchers on Team USA are not pitching all the way through. By the way, we haven't even heard from Puerto Rico or Venezuela or the Dominican Republic. It could be the same thing. We could get a final with no good starting pitchers starting. I don't want to say no good. Not as good as the aces starting. It's very possible at this point. George, what about the Olympics in 2028? Because that's coming up too. No definitive decision on that. The USA will send Major League Baseball players to the Summer Olympics in 2028. Is this buy or sell?
This is not an easy one, all right? I think the players would like to play. I do. But I don't think the owners are going to be thrilled about sending their players to play there. Listen, Team USA winning hockey gold was fantastic, right? But let's not forget, there were some major injuries there. Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins is out a month. How do you think Steinbrenner is going to feel if Aaron Judge gets hurt and misses a month? And we're talking, once again, Olympics generally are in August, right? So he can be gone for the stretch run there. So I think that's going to be a problem for owners to get past that here. I want them to. I do. I'd like to see the major league players play there. I'll have interest if they do. If they don't, I won't. It's really that simple. I think most people are going to be like that. I don't care what the college players playing there. So I'm going to it's going to be discussed in the new CBA, I'm sure here. I'm going to say this is fantasy. No, I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say they won't here. So no, I just I can't believe it till I see it.
Yeah, I don't know. Very, very tough. I'll play the other card here, and I'll say buy. I think that's part of why baseball is back at the Olympics. I think that they have to have some major league players, but there'll be some sort of agreement. I think it'll be based on service time. That, to me, will be the key. anybody with more than 1 or 2 years of service time in baseball will not be eligible to play. Anybody with less, they'll still send major league players, but maybe rookies, second-year players. That would be my guess. Speaking of rookies, Connor Griffin is turning a lot of heads with the home runs that he's hitting thus far in spring training, and right now is the biggest mover in all of fantasy baseball. Buy or sell, Connor Griffin will finish the season as a top 10 fantasy shortstop. Right now he's being drafted outside the top 20.
I've already mentioned, I think his draft stock is going to keep going up through the month of March, right? Our only question is this: is he going to start with Pittsburgh? If he starts, he's easy top 10. I don't think it's even all that close. If he comes mid-April, I think he gets top 10. If they wait till Super 2, then probably not. So that's what you're playing here, that sort of game here. I'm going to be the optimist. I mentioned I'm going to be drafting these guys, so I think he's going to have a big season. I think they are going to, if not start, it'll be sooner rather than later. You also mentioned maybe a key reason why. If he wins Rookie of the Year, they get that extra draft pick. Sort of makes up for maybe losing that year of service time here. So reality, buy. I'm taking Connor Griffin. I like him. I think he will finish as a top 10 fantasy shortstop.
Yeah, I'll buy this too. I also think Colson Montgomery is going to finish as a top 10 fantasy shortstop. I think both of those young shortstops make big leaps. Montgomery, who made a great leap in the second half of last season. And you look at the shortstop position, he doesn't have to do a lot of heavy lifting here, George, honestly. Yes, to get past Bobby Witt, he's got to do a lot of heavy lifting, like I get that. But there's 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe even 6, and then Griffin can jump easily into the top 10. So I will buy this as well. All right, so the Washington Nationals are like in this rebuild again somehow after just going through it. It feels like they're going through it again. They have a new general manager. They have a new manager. And they definitely have some really nice young players. And James Wood being one of them. Another one is this next guy we're going to talk about, and C.J. Abrams. But, Nationals are not projected to win a lot of games. Will they end up making some moves? They don't have to trade Abrams if they don't want to, of course. But if they decide to go deeper down in the rebuild hole, it'll happen. C.J. Abrams will be traded before the trade deadline. I believe it is the first week in August this season. Buy or sell?
Now, they have talked about trading Abrams during the offseason here, right? And they weren't able to get a deal done. You're going to tell me you're going to get a deal done at the deadline here when you can't talk with as many teams? There's always a possibility here, but if nothing happens, if Abrams doesn't do anything else stupid, whatever he was doing at the casino last year, whatever it was there, as long as he's not doing anything like that, I just don't see how you're going to be able to get the value you want. If you can't get the value now, you're not going to be able to get it at the deadline. I just don't see it. So I think as long as he is producing, he behaves, I think he stays with Washington. He's too good a player just to move on from. All right, this kid can play. So I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say no, he stays at Washington. I think the time to trade him was now if you were going to do it, but they couldn't find what they wanted from him, which means other teams may be wary of him as well.
Yeah, I would say sell. This just doesn't make sense. I know that he was out late one night and there was a lot was made about that and the Nationals weren't happy with that. But I don't know. They're saying the right things this spring in Palm Beach about him. He's an elite type talent. They gave a lot up to get him. I think Abrams, as George said, if they were going to move him, they were going to move him now. Now, the offseason, I could see it happening. But and by the way, Washington probably headed toward 90, 100 losses. Abrams still, he and Wood, 2 of 3 or 4 guys that can play offensively on that team. All right, finally, the big riser in fantasy from last year to this year at the position, Zach Neto of the Los Angeles Angels. Not Ohtani, not Trout. Is it Neto's team, George? Is it? Neto will hit 30-plus home runs this season. Buy or sell?
Excuse me, I didn't hear you. How many losses for Washington this season, Craig? I think it was 100, right? Did you say? I think it was 100.
It could be, man.
I'm buying
it
this, by the way. I'm buying this for Neto. Hit 26 home runs last year, right? He missed some time with the injury here. I think it's a good player here. Guy's not going to hurt your average too. Guy, I would certainly like has some speed as well here. Buy. He's going to do over 30.
Yeah, agreed. I think this is one of those over Connor Griffin going into fantasy baseball draft season. Zach Neto. Agreed. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number one in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge. Only on SportsGrid.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio. Only on SportsGrid.
I have my own account. I don't need to have any. He didn't say any of that. So I'm of the belief that if someone accuses you of something and you don't deny it, there's a reason you didn't deny it. Because you kind of feel like they got me. And yes, I'm not going to tell you I did it, but I did it.
Yeah.
Don't you think so?
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
Yeah, and with the Clippers, Craig, it feels like Kawhi is on an island. We saw him ball out in the All-Star game the other day. Kawhi was very impressive, and he's had a fantastic season. I think when you look at the Clippers, if the Clippers' record was better, but he's still James Harden, you would be talking about Kawhi as an MVP candidate. He's been one of the best players in the league in terms of how he's been playing. He's been fantastic.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today as we get ready to wrap up the show. Funny anecdote this week in baseball. Alek Manoah from South Florida, who know him. I know his family very well. I always see them at the games when they come down here to South Florida. Pitcher, of course, for the Toronto Blue Jays a couple of years ago at a very high level. He made the All-Star game, by the way, in Los Angeles several years ago. But, since then has had his issues. He was hurt, had a hard time coming back. But they did make the World Series last year, and everybody who does gets a pennant ring. So Alek Manoah says, I was a very big piece of that process, getting to that World Series run. I mean, I'm looking up the numbers here. I'm really having a hard time finding out what he's speaking about here. But I will say this, George, if you did play for the team, you're supposed to get a ring.
Yeah, I think the part is that if you did play for the team, all right, he did not play for anybody last season, all right, no stats. So I think he means, I guess, in the past, whatever, all right, that's what he's always been brash, right? He's always never had problems saying what's on his mind, right or wrong. So yeah, I think he's with is he with the Angels now in their system, I believe? Yeah, he's with those Los Angeles Angels there. So we'll see if he gets his career back on track here. Does he deserve it? I don't know. He didn't play one inning in Major League Baseball last year for Toronto. So I don't know, or anybody for that matter. So I have a hard time saying you deserve your ring here. I don't see it.
Yeah, a little extra cash, George, wouldn't have hurt anybody. That ring's probably worth, I don't know. Pennant ring? What would you guess? What would you think a pennant ring is worth?
15? 20?
Nah, that's too high.
They're usually still pretty nice.
World Series ring. That's not a World Series ring. It's a pennant ring. 5 maybe.
What?
10.
5?
He wants his $5,000. Just give the guy his $5,000. Just give him his 5,000. Give him his 10,000. That's what I would do. All right, let's wrap up the show. It's time now for the Sports Grid 63.
By the way, according to a pennant ring's worth about $10,000, so in between what we thought here. That's what they say here. All right. The big thing this week has been the ABS system in baseball, right? The automatic ball to strike, which I kind of like. I do. I wish they would do it more.
Oh
Actually,
my
I wish they would
gosh,
do it
you like something?
I like the fact that they're trying it. All right, I do like it. I wish they would do it for every pitch, though. It would stop the argument, stop all the BS, stop with the veteran pitcher gets a 24-inch strike zone where the rookie gets a 12-inch. Same thing with batters there. I've been to some independent league games here, okay, with the Long Island Ducks. They're the big team here, and they do it for everyone. You don't even notice it. The guy has an earpiece in like we have here, and they're told ball strike. You know, he tells you a second after the pitch is there. And I kind of like that. It moves the game along here. We don't have to worry about no challenges, no nothing here. Just we go on here. So I do like the ABS. I'm glad they're giving it a shot here. I think it'll make more strategy because we're already seeing that some of these players in the second inning on a 2-0 count are challenging and losing. Now you lose one of your challenges here. You're probably going to tick off not only the manager, but some players too. Why are you challenging that? A 2-0 pitch? Who cares? You damn well better be right. That sort of thing. So it'll make for some more strategy and a lot more stuff for us to talk about during the year. But I do like the fact that they're finally going toward this.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see a lot of challenges early in games. And they did it all throughout the minor leagues last year, and the majority of the challenges were 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. It's just that the starters are playing early in the games, and they know that they're going to be out, and so they're challenging before they are out of the game and before they leave the game. That's a huge part of it. By the way, George, could you tell me between the pitcher, the catcher, and the hitter, based on challenges in 2025, who got the most right of those three? The pitcher, the catcher, and the batter. Who got the most?
I don't know.
Based on
I don't know
percentage
offhand,
wins.
but I'll say the catcher. He seems to be the
You
most.
are correct, sir. You are correct,
yeah.
sir. It was the catcher. Would you like to take a guess what percentage they got right? Catcher.
2/3.
Wait, hold on. Sam. Go ahead. George?
2/3. I'll say 66, 67. 2/3.
51%.
Ooh, so even they're not all that great at it. Ooh.
It's there to get it right, but a lot of times these guys are getting it wrong. All right. Want to say farewell to Bill Mazeroski, who passed away this week. I got to know Maz when he was with the, of course, Pirates organization for many years. A guy that didn't take himself all that seriously. He's in the Hall of Fame. Kind of knew that he only hit one home run, really big one, didn't deserve to be maybe in the Hall of Fame. Rest in peace, Bill Mazeroski. Incredible career and incredible life, too. Thanks again to our producer, Sam. For my co-host, George Kurtz, I'm Craig Mish. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Fantasy Sports Today. Have a great day, everyone.
Florida lost at home to Auburn, and it's a real thing that happened. So you can't strike it from the record. But if you did, I think Florida's looked like the best team in college basketball for about 2 months. And I think there are a bunch of results that suggest that.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Michigan at a 57% chance right now, followed by Arizona, Duke, and Houston. Here's the interesting caveat, Joe, for Michigan, who's the favorite right now. On February the 8th at 5 a.m., they were trading at 40%. Today, 57%. People like themselves some Michigan here.
Well, Donnie, exactly, because Michigan, it just vaulted themselves to number one in the AP poll.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.